And we want to make sure we mention this again. We got 27 freezers in 8 counties, 12 taxidermists, and 17 processors. So you have ample opportunity to get a sample pull.
That's pretty much every processor that's in the 8 counties. Now, that's not every taxidermist. So, I mean, if I would encourage people, if you talk with your taxidermist or talk with your processor, to plan ahead on the front end and say, hey, if I bring one to you, can I get it sampled?
The award-winning Tennessee WildCast is on the air with the latest on hunting, fishing, boating, wildlife watching, and all things outdoors. Make welcome your host, drummer and outdoor expert novice, Jason Harmon.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Tennessee WildCast. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We are at the Bartlett Range again today in West Tennessee and visiting with some folks. Mr. Jeremy Dennison, the Deer Biologist for the West Tennessee region, and Daniel Stanfield. He's the Biodiversity Manager for the Wildlife Agency out here in this area. And also Miss Amy Snyder-Spencer is with us, helping co-host. I'm going to make sure I always get Snyder-Spencer in there.
It doesn't matter. I answered either one.
Yeah, I know. But she's our information guru out here and helps us make things happen in Region 1 as far as information goes, and we appreciate everyone being here with us today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
We're going to be talking about CWD today.
Oh, yeah. The three of us talk about it quite a bit, don't we?
Story of my life.
Have we talked about it enough? I don't think so. We're going to talk about it again today. We're going to describe the process. We're going to talk about how to get your deer tested, the process of doing all that.
Basically, we're going to answer some of the most commonly asked questions.
And it's what everybody's asking and everybody wants to know, so we're going to make sure everybody understands it today. And if you don't understand after today, then I don't know if we can help.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know what else we could say.
We'll do our best.
Yeah, we're going to do what we can do. So let's start off at the top of the list here. Number 1, describe how the process works from the time a hunter kills a deer to getting back the results. So where can you take a deer?
Well, when you kill a deer, depending on what you want to do with it, if you just want to have it processed, or if you take it to a taxidermist, or if you home process, there's really 3 methods. So
okay,
we're partnering with processors, and those guys are either saving heads for us to collect the samples, or some of them are actually going ahead and taking the samples themselves.
Okay.
The taxidermists are collecting samples on deer that they take in. And then for folks who home process, do their own thing, we have the freezer locations that are scattered throughout the counties.
We actually have 27 in 8 counties.
So if you take your deer home, process it, take the head off, drop it in one of our collection freezers, and we'll take it from there.
Okay. How long does it take for a sample? How long does it take to pick up a sample?
Well, I'll take that one. Yeah, it's going to be different depending on when that deer head is dropped off in the process or dropped off in the freezer. So if it's a Friday, we're going to do our best to try to get the freezers cleaned out before the weekend, because that's when the majority of the hunters are going to be submitting heads to us. So if you drop that deer, if you harvest a deer on a Friday and you drop it in a freezer, well, technically we're not probably going to get to that head till on Monday. We're going to have these routes, work with the processors, go by, pick all the heads up out of the freezers, kind of start clean slate for the next week. Mm-hmm. And then once we get that deer head in our possession, we're going to take it to our facility that we've got set up, and we're going to pull the samples. So we're going to have hundreds of deer coming in. We've actually got some guys dedicated just for the CWD sampling this year. It's going to help us out tremendously. Last year we didn't have that help. So we're not going to have that sample bagged and ready to be sent off to the lab probably till Tuesday or Wednesday of when that deer was put in there on a Friday. So be mindful of that from the hunters. And then also, if you're dropping it off at a taxidermist, it may be a week, or I don't know how long it's going to take for the taxidermist to finally get to that sample. Mm-hmm. So it could be a little longer, that method.
Yeah, because they're going to probably be backed up with other deer and other things that they're dealing with.
And then once we get a deer head at our facility, which we're going to go into a little bit more later, that's going to take a while, because you all may have to go through 100 deer heads once you're actually cutting samples.
Right.
Okay, and then the deer processor, he's going to probably take the sample fairly quick if he's butchering the deer, right? Or and that one might be probably come back pretty quick, I guess. Y'all get that sample fairly quick.
And we'll get those picked up just as our routes run, on Mondays, we'll pick up, kind of what they collect over the weekend. So that'll get lumped in with what we process there at our facility.
Okay. So then you send these off and results come back. What are folks looking at for results?
You should probably expect 2 to 3 weeks, just to be on the safe side. We've done a lot to speed up that process, to make it run as efficiently as possible. So we're trying to trim off that turnaround time, but
right.
To be on the safe side, you should expect a wait of about 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay. All right. So then let's walk through how to drop it off at a freezer. That's probably going to be used by a lot of people if they process their own deer. A lot of people process their own.
Right.
And if they're going to drop it off at a freezer location, let's just kind of describe how you would suggest someone to drop that off and what the process is.
Okay. Well, first of all, as you're quartering your deer up at your house, go ahead and remove the head because our freezers have everything you need except for a saw. So you'll need to do that before you come to the freezer.
Okay.
All right. You can put it in your own bag and, have it when you get to the freezer. We'll have bags if you need them. We'll have these CWD sampling tags,
okay,
and zip ties and everything you need for that process. So
there's actually a permanent marker there, so you can fill these out.
Basically, you just fill in all the information that needs to remain with that head until we collect the sample, and we'll take it from there.
Now, we do need to remind someone if they have a buck, have an antlered deer, and they want go over that process with them if you're going to drop it in a freezer.
If you kill a buck that you want to do a European mount with, your best bet is going to be to take it to a taxidermist or take it to a processor, because they can actually take the sample and give it right back to you.
Okay.
So it won't hurt that process at all. If you leave the heads that we pick up from the freezers, we're going to take the sample and we're going to dispose of them eventually.
So you're not if there's any antlers on it, you're not getting them back.
Right.
Yeah.
More than likely.
More than likely. I mean, when we get 100 coming in, it's just not feasible for our guys to be making phone calls and trying to get antlers back to people.
Well, there was a special case this weekend.
It was a special case.
Weekend that a gentleman left the antlers, and y'all were gracious enough to give him a call and say, "Hey, did you want these?" But in most cases, you're not going to have time to do that.
Well, there's instructions on the top of all the freezers, and that's actually step one on there is remove the antlers if present. So,
okay.
One, if most people want to keep them, and also as the season progresses, we have more people utilizing the freezers. The antlers are going to take up more space.
Fill up, yeah.
It helps us if you just remove them.
Describe the freezer. It's a decent chest freezer, probably in most locations.
It's like a medium-sized chest freezer.
Wrapped with logos and stuff on it. So
everything is pretty much the same. We've been using the same message, the same design, so everybody can recognize that, from our billboards to our freezers to even our drop-off location signs. They're all the same. So everyone, it's easily recognizable.
Yeah, we had them in play last year during that extended season, and I think the most we had in one was like 17, and it wasn't even halfway full. So
really, okay.
Yeah, it can accommodate a lot of deer heads.
Awesome. All right, so 27 freezers. If you're looking for one, there's 27 freezers across 8 counties. And now, what if somebody kills a deer outside of a CWD zone? Or do you want these deer? Do you want these tested?
Yeah.
We definitely need them, and that's one thing everybody's got to remember is even though we're intensifying our focus within the CWD counties, we're still, last year we changed our method or went to a CWD risk-based approach. So all 25 counties in West Tennessee, if not across the state, we were sampling each county. We had a certain tier or a number that we had to get. So, yes, at the beginning of the season, Lake County, Weakley County, Henderson, all these counties that are outside in West Tennessee, we still have to get a certain amount of deer from that location or that county. So please, we'll have guys out on the opening weekend of muzzleloader as well as rifle, doing the same thing we've done for several years, pulling the lymph nodes, getting the biological data, the age, sex information from that harvested deer. So, yeah, we want to get them. And then once we reach that quota for that county, we won't sample as many. However, if a hunter still wants to continue to get that, he'll have the option to bring that head to one of the freezers inside the zone or carry it to a processor to drop it off to get sampled.
Okay. And if you're outside the zone, say if I'm outside the zone, the CWD zone, the high-risk areas, you encourage hunters not to bring the deer don't bring it into that high
Well,
risk.
well,
or
we get into a
CWD
legal
zone,
issue
right?
here, and that's
Right.
where we need to, know the rules. Know the
Right.
rules.
You know, you can bring it in if you want to get, say, if you want to get it processed in Madison County, and you're outside, and if you're in Gibson or Crockett, you can bring it into the zone, but it needs to be processed or at least meet the requirements for transport before you bring it back.
Right. You can't take it out unless it meets
Right.
those requirements.
Right.
And there's going to be drop-off locations at various regional offices and
Yes.
throughout the state.
I know the Region 3 office and the Region 4 office, I believe, is where that location is going to be.
Okay.
Region 2 is still looking for one that would be, convenient for folks.
Okay.
So that'll all be on the website, and it's included in the sampling location.
Yeah,
Again, and we cannot stress too much, cwdintennessee.com, or you can go to our regular website and tnwildlife.org, and you can click on the tabs, and everything is updated there. So everything can be found in just a couple of clicks.
So tell us about the facility. You guys, this is new to Tennessee. We're a year into the process of discovering CWD, almost a year and a half now, I guess. And so tell us what it took to find a facility and get this area worked up where y'all can process these and take these samples.
Well, last year, when all this kind of kicked off, we made contact with our processors. Was kind of the first step to get our hands on the samples. And unfortunately, the only way we had to collect the samples was just mobily through a couple of enclosed trailers. So we would be in the parking lot, doing what we had to do. Luckily, this year we'll be partnering with a local taxidermist there in Hardeman County, and it's going to make it more efficient, and it's going to be better off, in the long run. So,
So this facility took some work to get going, right?
We're still in the process of trying to get it up and running. We had it operational for this past weekend's velvet hunt, and all the heads that we've sampled. I think there were 61 heads, or 61 deer that were harvested within the county. And through working with our freezers, processors, and taxidermists, we were able to sample 47 of them 61. So we feel really good about that. So when we had all these heads, we brought them back to this facility that we have there in Hardeman County, North Hardeman, there at Custom Deer Processing. So, they've been gracious enough to work with us. Actually, the pictures, if you've looked at them, it was an old salt room, a deer hide salt room that they've had for 15, 20 years or whatever. And he said he wasn't going to do deer hides this year, and said, "Hey, can we do an agreement with you to come down here and utilize that?" So kind of give us a home base to bring all these heads to. Where, like Jeremy said, we're not working in enclosed trailers or on tailgate of a truck or out in the rain. Or
Hey, I'll actually have some more warm to work up some.
Absolutely.
So it looks like it took a lot of work if you look at the pictures.
Yeah, these two guys are jacks of all trades, because
well, the first job was to remove the salt, obviously.
Yeah,
and,
the floor is covered in salt.
55-gallon drums full of salt.
He brought us a load of drums, and we filled up 14 or 15 of them. So
Wow. And then, so if you look at the next few pictures, I mean, it looks like a whole new facility.
Transformation before
Yeah.
and after.
Yeah. So you got water and electricity and everything you need.
Well,
there.
you're still
We're
working
working
on
on some of that.
on it. And we got to give a special shout out to our new part-time technicians, our seasonal technicians.
Right.
Luckily enough, one of them has a plumbing background, and
Another's
one of them
got
has an
electrical
electrical
background.
background. So
Wow.
big shout out to those guys, because they helped us tremendously. And then
And they're still helping us, and they're going to
Yeah.
be, the main guys running the routes this year, picking them
Right.
up for us, getting them back to the facility. So, if you see them there at the processor, if you got any questions, hit them up, ask them. They're going to be knee-deep in CWD this year. So,
No pun intended.
As
Yeah.
we say, we sleep, eat, and breathe
It's-
CWD.
So I'm looking at some of these pictures, flipping through them, and I see the sample of the lymph node there that you've pulled. Explain to the folks that if you're dropping it off at a freezer location, how much neck you need on this deer and how much to leave so you can get an adequate sample.
Yeah, you don't want to cut the head off right behind the jawbone. You want to leave us, 3 to 4 inches at least. If you leave more, too much is fine, But we'd
rather have too much than not
right.
enough.
As we go in right in front of the Adam's apple, so if you cut too short, chances are we're not going to be able to collect the sample. So just keep that in mind.
Another thing to kind of bring up too, we had several of these last year. I know there's a lot of hunters out there that like to head shoot the deer because they don't want to waste meat. Well, just remember, if you head shoot that deer, there's a good possibility we're not going to be able to get a sample.
Okay. I never thought about that. people like to do that. All right. So tell us about the.
I know. I made him
Great.
smile
That's a
in the
great
photo.
Oh yeah.
I was like, come on, Jeremy, smile.
Yeah, we're laughing at the photo here that he's holding up the velvet deer that came in, and the one we graciously was able to get back to the guy that he wasn't sure exactly the full process of how to drop it off at a freezer location, and got a nice grip and grin photo
Yeah.
there.
Well,
That's what they call the money shot in the outdoor industry.
I think so. I think so. You should have held it out just a little bit further. Make
yeah,
it look
yeah. Got to roll a Martin in the picture.
Right.
So just talk a little bit about the earn-a-buck process and how that works. Tell the folks at home what that's all about.
Yeah, the earn a buck is kind of an incentive to get hunters out there in the field. You know, get them hunting, get us able we can get more samples. So, with earn a buck is everybody starts out with 2 deer statewide, 2 antler deer statewide. Well, within the CWD zone, if you harvest 2 antlerless deer and submit them for sampling through one of these methods, whether it's a freezer processor or taxidermist, then you'll get basically an earn a buck tag. So then you could have possibly 3 buck tags, and then you can do that earn a buck twice. So theoretically, you sample 2 does, you get an earn a buck. You sample 2 more does, and you got to submit them for testing, and you could end up with 4 antler deer tags basically that you can use.
So how's the hunter notified if they harvest those?
He's
2?
going to be notified pretty much similar to the way that the replacement buck is going to happen. He'll be noted once we get the confirmation number that antlerless deer have been submitted for testing. That confirmation number will go into the system, and then they're going to be notified. I guess there are INE, or we're going to have a team of people that basically last year they were calling to notify the hunters that had a detected deer. So it's going to be the same method.
And we've got to be able to do that because you got to understand an officer situation where you've had a guy that has limited out on 2 bucks, and then all of a sudden he has a 3rd one. So an officer's got to be able to look into that system and see that, let's say Jeremy has earned and that he can kill that 3rd buck or that 4th buck. So we've got to be able to have a way to track that, and so the officers can verify that.
And you mentioned the replacement buck, so let's hit on that too. What is the replacement buck?
Yeah, so any buck you kill in the CWD unit, if you receive notification that that's positive for CWD, then you actually get that
Detected,
tag replaced.
Yeah, you'll get a replacement buck.
And in the same case, make sure you've got that proper notification before you go out and think you've earned a replacement or earn a buck situation. Make sure you've got that.
Yes, please make sure. And this brings up a good time to talk about detected versus not detected, and how we're going to notify people as the agency this year.
Right. So everyone's going to be notified via email. Whether or not if you're in Fayette and Hardeman County, you'll be emailed if it's detected or not detected.
And that's why it is so important to fill out all of this information, or to make sure that your information is correct in our real system.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no fake emails or phone numbers, guys, because we really need that information in case we need to get a hold of you.
Right. And then the high risk counties, we're really focusing trying to find that leading edge of it. Those new counties, if you get one that's detected CWD, then you'll actually get a phone call. So.
And then we'll have questions. We want to know where you kill it. We'll want a GPS coordinate, and that is so we can determine that leading edge of it.
Right.
So, be mindful if you get a phone call from the agency. You might want to give us a call back if you get voicemail or an email that says, hey, we're looking, we want to talk to you.
Sure, yeah, definitely.
Now, not detected can check their results online.
Correct. That's why it's important to keep up with your confirmation number. You can just log in on our website, and there's going to be a link that will carry you to, and you just basically search for your confirmation number.
And I did that last year, and it was super easy because I didn't get an email, and I was in Hardeman County, and I was like, oh, I wonder, I know I've not got a phone call, and I know I'm going to get a phone call. So I got on there, and sure enough, you just scroll down by your confirmation number. There's no names or anything on there.
No.
It's just all confirmation number, and you can check it that way.
And that's actually detected and non-detected.
Yes,
that's
detected
all,
and non-detected.
all
The detected will be first.
Yeah.
They were last year. I assume it's going to be the same this year, and I think they were red on the screen, and then you just scroll down. Yeah. And you never realize how many we harvest until you start looking for your number, and you just keep scrolling. Just keep scrolling. Yeah.
So I know you guys work really, really hard to get to this point where you know how to take these samples. I mean, last year was kind of a new thing, and now you've got a team assembled and guys that can help.
I've got to brag on these 2 guys. Okay, when this came out last year, these 2 guys worked 18, 20-hour days. They both worked Christmas Day doing samples, making, I mean, last year it was crazy on our end, and there was a lot of times where I don't think you all knew what was going on. I think like I knew what was going on, trying to talk about stuff, and these two guys took it and they ran with it. Jeremy had been in the job 10 days. 10 days.
Yeah, I mean it was busy, but then again, you know, we had a lot of help going, you know, from the get go there with, you know, different folks who have different jobs throughout the agency, kind of.
I mean, it was statewide.
Above and beyond there.
We had people coming from all parts of the
duties.
state
Yeah.
to come out, help out on these checks. And I mean, there were weekends where it was freezing cold and it was pouring rain, and people were
Nasty.
sitting in trucks and they were under pop-up canopies.
tents.
And we had tarps trying to keep wind off
Hugging
of them.
Mr. Heaters.
Yeah, hugging Mr. Heaters. And we couldn't have done it without everyone across the agency.
That's right.
Well, tell the folks what kind of training y'all had to go through and different learning processes you've had to go through here in the last year to get to this. I've seen pictures from some of the stuff that Amy's taken, you know.
Well, we did have a workshop, but
Yeah.
first we had the learn as you go, fly
Right.
by here.
Just
Well-
talking with other state agencies, you know, seeing, you know, when it came to their state, what did they do wrong? What did they do right? So you don't make that same mistake twice. And, you know, and Dr. Dan Grove's been great. He's been great working with us, explaining to us, telling us the process, because he's been in 2 other states that's had it and went through this. So, you know, we've just done little workshops amongst our agency personnel. So, you know, your officers, your wildlife technicians, your biologist manager, everybody knows how to pull it. So we're not in one county and we get a call 4 counties over, we need to go pull a sample. So pretty much all agency guys are going to have these little kits in their trucks. They can pull the sample. We've got guys that are picking up roadkill if they see it, just testing. That's another sample that we get.
And not only that, we had a little CWD training back in the summer,
Right.
where U.S. Fish and Wildlife veterinarians came in, and Dr. Grove, our veterinarian, state veterinarian, and we actually hosted how many different? There was
It was probably 7 or 8.
seven, eight different agencies, groups that were there working. We had some park rangers, we had U.S. Fish and Wildlife, other employees that all came in, and we had a whole afternoon of pulling samples and how to properly handle and submit samples. And actually, one thing that we were doing was testing for ticks, which is something
Yeah.
that we haven't talked about, but we were actually pulling tick samples then.
Right.
So
So what was that information? What were you gaining from those tick samples?
there's actually, what school's doing the research?
It's a UT
It's
project.
UT Project's doing the research on tick diseases. Yep. So, and we were pulling those. Now, are y'all pulling any when you do any right now, or is that just
No.
what we did in the summer?
Just what we did in the summer.
So what about roadkills? You mentioned roadkill deer and sick calls. What if you get these calls? Are y'all going out and sampling these deer, or looking for these deer, or you
Well-
know, trying to find sick deer?
On the roadkill, you know, like Daniel alluded to, each county has a quota as far as the number of deer we need to sample. And I know last year we finished up several of the counties in West Tennessee just kind of cruising for roadkill. So again, you know, that's just another way that we come about a sample. So yeah, I mean that's important.
What if somebody calls and says, "Hey, I've got this deer. It's walking around funny and looks like it might be sick, and hey, it's got EHD." You know, and
Well,
that's
that
not-
is,
you know.
right now everyone wants to assume the worst.
Right.
But right now we're seeing more EHD than we're seeing anything else. It's that time of the year. EHD is transmitted by midge flies, and deer can actually survive that. But they could also mimic the same signs
Right.
and
Same
symptoms of
signs.
Yeah.
CWD. So if you do have one, contact us and let us know. But please don't take the worst case scenario that it's CWD. Be
Right.
mindful that right now it could very well be EHD.
But if there's a deer that's just not acting right, you know, we do want to know about that. And we actually have a new sick deer reporting system.
Okay.
That's just
I don't think it's been released yet,
Yeah.
but we're working through some testing with it right now.
So that's a way that we'll be able to track a lot of these calls, and you know, it'll give us the location and certain details about each case, so that if it's something that we feel like we need to follow up with, you know, we'll be able to contact the person.
Until that system's in place, would you recommend just call the regional
Call
office?
the regional office.
That's what
yes.
most people are doing right now.
TNWildlife.org. You can find those numbers. All those numbers are there. You can call us and report those. So, all right. Anything we've left out? I do want to make sure we mention the mandatory dates for that you want samples. You want people to check their deer in.
Right, yeah, we've got 2 weekends coming up this year within the CWD unit, November the 2nd and 3rd and November the 9th and 10th. One of them is that first Saturday, the muzzleloader, which people need to remember, the muzzleloader moved up. It's going to crank up or open up on that Monday.
Make sure you check the CWD opening dates because those have all changed.
Right, and then the following weekend on the 9th and the 10th will be the rifle opener within the CWD. So that's going to be our mandatory check station weekends. We're going to be scattered out amongst the 8 counties. Want you to bring your deer in, and we can check it in. We're going to have our iPads, the computers there. We can check it in for you. Try to get that sample, and it's not mandatory that you get your deer sampled. We're going to ask you, hey, do you mind if we get a sample?
It's a mandatory physical check-in.
It's a mandatory physical check-in where we get that biological data, and then if you allow us to pull that lymph node, we're going to try to pull that from the deer to reach these quotas. And obviously, if you kill a big buck, we had this happen last year on the extended season. We had several guys come in with the extended season with a really nice trophy deer they wanted to get mounted. Well, they didn't know. They thought it was a mandatory check or a sample pull. We explained it to them. They'd go right down the road to the taxidermist. The taxidermist would cape it out. They'd bring it right back up there to us to get that sample. So that's where we're working with these taxidermists to get them samples.
That's great. Yeah. That's great.
And we want to make sure we mention this again. We got 27 freezers in 8 counties, 12 taxidermists, and 17 processors. So you have ample opportunity to get a sample pull.
That's pretty much every processor that's in the 8 counties. Now, that's not every taxidermist. So, I mean, if I would encourage people, if you talk with your taxidermist or talk with your processor, to plan ahead on the front end and say, hey, if I bring one to you, can I get it sampled? So.
Right. To put you on the spot, back during the August hunt, do you know how many were killed? I've seen this question come in. Do you know how many were killed with a muzzleloader during that time in that zone?
Did you get that number?
I haven't got that number yet.
Okay. People have been wondering about that, so I was just curious.
I know the harvest was up in the 8 counties. I think it was a 79%.
Yeah, 79%. I think about 61 deer harvested.
Yeah, 61 inside the CWD area.
So, all right, a lot of good information. Check out your website, tnwildlife.org or cwdintennessee.com.
And we can't leave here without saying know the rules before you go.
Right.
If you're someone who lives outside the CWD zone and you come into the zone to hunt and you kill a deer, make sure you know the rules and regulations before you leave there. Okay, please don't move these deer. Please, we're trying to control this.
Keep it contained.
Yep.
Please don't move your deer.
And if you're a hunting guide kind of guy and you like to get into the book, what page, Daniel, is that information start on for CWD right there? Right around 34 or something like that, I think.
34, it tells you how you can move your deer.
32.
32 is where it starts, and then on 34, it tells you what you can do with your deer from the Unit CWD and how to transport it.
Okay.
So please take a look at that.
So yeah, check out your hunting guide. If you can get it, you can get it at tnwildlife.org, or if you're a hard copy kind of guy, you can pick one up and read through it, page 32 for all that information. But guys, I appreciate you.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being on, and thanks for all the hard work that y'all are doing. Thank y'all for tuning in. Keep coming back to Tennessee WildCast for all the latest information, and we'll try to keep bringing it to you. And thank y'all again. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay connected with TWRA by visiting our website at tnwildlife.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hey, it's all about Tennessee wildlife. It's what we do. Tennessee WildCast will be on the air again next week. We'll see you then.